All right, let's see if we can check my audio really quick. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let's see. Test, 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 test. Testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. All right, now we're in business. Okay. So today we're going to be going through. Let me see. Default. There we go. Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing. What is this now? Testing. There we go. All right. So today we got a subject to deal 3593 Bellmead Court, Wesley Chapel, Florida. This is a sub-to hybrid deal, which means that we have a combination of a subject to loan that we're going to be taking over the existing payments at a 3.62% interest rate. Great interest rate, right? The seller carry on their portion, which means that there is likely an equity portion of the deal that the seller wants in addition for us taking over the payments on the loan. All right. So the total monthly payment, this is going to be the most important number, is $2,586. Entry fee, $36,000. Let's see. This is a townhouse, 2-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,500 square feet. That's a lot of square footage for a 2-bedroom home. I don't know why you didn't just make that a 3. $26,000 cash to seller, $10,000 assignment fee, $22,227. So including the HOA and including the seller carry, that's $112. Okay. Let's just remember that the total PITI includes everything, so we can back into it later, okay? Just remember that, and I'm sure you how to do that. Long-term rental, $2,185. That's not very appealing, so that's below the PITI. Normally, I would rule that out. But all right, let's go ahead and plug it in. Now we know that the existing loan is $248,433 with a 3.62% interest rate. And this is the secondary loan. So we'll go ahead and plug that into the calculator based on everything that we learned today. Now, if I wanted to look at the general condition of the property, I just looked it up on Redfin really quick. And it appears that this property is relatively turnkey, especially if it was built in less than 3 years ago. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. I mean, you might set aside a couple grand just in case there's some landscaping or some touch-up stuff you need to do. But for the most part, this looks pretty good. Okay. Now, I need to figure out what county this is in so I can get the FMR. And this is in Pasco County. So what we do is if you go to HUD FMR and you Google HUD FMR, just click on the first link, come down here and click on Access to Smart Area FMRs. You're going to see this number. Look up FY 2024 FMRs. So Florida, and this was in Pasco County, just like what we saw from Redfin. And this was in zip code 33543, 33543. And you're going to see here that the rent ceiling, this likely includes utilities, but always look up your county or your city's housing authority to see what jurisdiction they're underneath for the payment stamps. But for now, we're just using this number to get a rough math of whether or not this deal even pencils. Okay, so 2450, 33543, 2450, and then the 3-bedroom ceiling is 3130. See, that's a pretty big jump in my opinion, from a 2-bed to a 3-bed. So let's go ahead and plug these numbers in. 33543. I'm just writing down these numbers just to stay consistent with how I do it. 33543. This was it for a 2-bed. Boom. All right, now that we got a rent ceiling, quote unquote, inclusive of utilities, we're going to go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, and then we'll plug in the address, we'll plug in a bedroom count, and then what you're going to get is this number right here on the bottom right. This is the most important number, where it says for 2.51 mile radius for 23 units, there are 2-bedroom units. Your average rent is $2,000, $2,009 to be exact, $2,009. Now, since this number is lower than the rent ceiling, I will underwrite the property using the $2,000 rent. Why? Because of the rent reasonableness test, okay? The rent reasonableness test essentially states that you cannot charge more rent to a voucher holder simply because they are a voucher holder for the obvious reasons, right? You can't be discriminatory. You can't charge more rent simply because they might be a lower income household, as an example, right? So the rent reasonable test is always going to be there to make sure. Oh, here, let me see if I can pull this up for you guys, just so you guys can take a look at it. What is the rent reasonableness designed to ensure that the rents being paid are reasonable in relation to rents being charged for comparable unassisted units in the same market, okay? This is the rent reasonableness test. This is what you want to make sure you always keep in mind, because if you just went here and said, oh, the FMR is this, well, usually there's a rent reasonableness test. And sometimes local authorities will adjust upwards or downwards depending on the cost of living. So that's something that you want to be really, really cautious about. All right. So that's why I'm going to underwrite with $2,009 and not $3,000. I mean, not $2,450. Let's see if there's any rents for 3 bedrooms. $2,207. So you're only seeing a $200 lift in rent, and that's probably not going to be worth your time to try to get $200 extra in rent by converting an additional bedroom. But who knows? Let's see if this is even close to being a deal. All right. So at $2,000, let me write that. That's a 3 bedroom, right? Boom. And that was $2,309. Just for completeness standpoint, let's finish that out. All right. So our purchase price for this property, let's plug it in. And I'm gonna go to full screen. If for those of you who are watching on Instagram, you guys can always go to YouTube, so you guys can see the screen number side by side. $325,000. I'm just gonna leave $1,300 of rehab in there. I have a spreadsheet that goes into depth, but looks relatively turnkey, so I'm just leaving a little bit of money there. So $2,000. Let's do even $2,050 as a rent. All right. Now we're gonna plug in some numbers here. The entry fee is $26,000. $26,000 to the seller or agent, and $10,000 assignment fee. I got 2.5% closing costs because that's not included in there. $3,600 of reserves. All right. Now my TI breakdown. I'm gonna look at the mortgage information. 248. $248,433. 248,433. 3.62%. It was maturing in 12/1/51, so I'm gonna do 12/1/21 as the beginning date. And then there is a secondary loan, right? There is a subto loan. So this means this is the equity portion that the seller wants to be paid out on. And now they're going to carry out for 30 years at 45.67. So 45.67, 45.67, 0% interest rate. It's going to start on May 1st, 2024, 30 years, 12 payments a year. So now I have the total PI right here. Now, if you remember correctly, the total PI/TI is what? The total payment is $25.86. So in order for you to figure out what the property taxes are and what the insurance numbers are, we're going to go to this property tax number line and we're going to put in 2,586. That's the total number. You're going to subtract the principal. You're going to subtract interest and subtract the principal amount. And that equals the rest of your expenses, which includes your property taxes, your HOA, and your insurance, right? So I don't need to put in another expense item for HOA later because this is already included in what the wholesale disclosed. Make sense? All right. I'm always going to add extra $30 for insurance because insurance is always going to go up. Just being conservative here. We're setting aside 10% every single month. Even though it's a newer home, you are in Florida, so sometimes, who knows, your roof might get a little bit more damaged. Who knows? 10% maintenance every single month just to make sure you have set that aside. Get 10% for property management. And this area, this home looks pretty nice. This is a pretty good area. Let's see. I got 5%. Not bad. So because it's a brand new home, I'm going to leave it at 3% vacancy. Now, you can see why this is not worth us investigating any further, right? This is going to result, assuming you rent it out as a 2-bedroom for $2,050, you're going to lose negative $1,038 a month every single month on this deal, minus 26%. That's assuming your purchase price was $325,000 with a $3,600 rehab and a sub 2 loan over. Now, even, right, sometimes we might say, hey, what if I turn this into a 3-bedroom? Because all of a sudden you saw that the small area FMR says 3130. You're like, oh, what if I just turn to 3-bedroom? All of a sudden I can get this. That's not the case, right? Let's remind ourselves. Even though FMR says 3130, your average market rent for 3-bedroom properties, according to affordablehousing.com, for 25 units within a 1.16 mile radius, 25 units within a 1.16 mile radius is $2,200. So even if you turn this 3-bedroom, you're not getting $3,100 in rent. You're getting $2,200. And if this was $2,200, you're still losing, quote unquote, everything else, assuming everything else stays the same at $2,200, you're still losing $922. So this is why this is not a deal, even though you try to get a little bit creative with it and add an extra bedroom. Okay. And again, just to remind ourselves, this is where people make such a mistake. They assume that FMR is just what it is, but they always forget about this rent reasonableness test. And let me just zoom in really clear so you guys can see this definition. Let's see if I can zoom in. Zoom out a little bit. All right, right here. HUD's rent reasonable standard is designed to ensure that rents being paid are reasonable in relation to rents being charged for comparable unassisted units in the same market. Okay, this is the definition that you really, really want to be aware of, and most importantly, incorporate into your underwriting. Right, our numbers in the spreadsheet is just whatever we want them to be, but it's always the underlying assumptions that you have to rely on in order for you to make that decision. And what most importantly, you have to figure out whether or not you're going to spend more time on this deal. Right, on this deal, in my opinion, I probably would have stopped analyzing the deal as soon as I saw the PITI was 2227 or the total payment was 2586, and I saw that even the wholesale is going to present in the best light as possible was 2185. But just in case they made a mistake, what I do is I go to HUD FMR, I find a rent ceiling. I'm like, all right, even at 2450, that's still below it. That's not a deal. But when I saw that the 3-bedroom might be $3,130. Now all of a sudden, what? There is a potential spread at $3,130 compared to $2,586. But the reason this was not a deal, and as soon as I went to affordablehousing.com, I went to the owner section, plugged in the market rent estimator, I saw that the 2-bedroom rent was $2,000. That's when, okay, this is not a deal. But when I went to 3 bedrooms, because my hope was what? My hope was I can get $3,130 as a 3-bedroom because I saw that this was a 2-bed, 2.5 bath, and it was 1,500 square feet. So I thought in my mind, maybe there's a way that I could turn it into a 3-bedroom. But even if I did that, the market rent here at $2,207 for 25 units within a 1.16 mile radius proved that this was not worthy of my time. And that's where I would have stopped analyzing the deal. And that is all because I understand the rent reasonableness test. And I knew that this 3-bedroom, even though the rent ceiling was $3,150, this is the actual rent I would have gotten. And the $2,207 is still lower than the $2,586. So hopefully that was helpful, everybody. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments. I just wanted to share this analysis because, one, there were 2 elements that sometimes we don't come across very often. This was a sub-2 hybrid deal. And how do we account for that? We just plugged in the details for the existing loan that we're taking over subject to, and we're plugging in the seller's equity portion that they're financing to us. And then we're just taking the total PITI and we're subtracting and backing out whatever we know so that we still arrive at the same similar whole number for the monthly payment. And we use that to analyze the cash flow on this property. And that's how I figured this was not a deal. Again, the whole point of this is for us to avoid burning out. In order for us to avoid burning out, we have to quickly realize what our process is. How do we quickly realize something is not a deal so we move on quickly from it so we don't burn time on it? And that's how we are able to avoid burnout and be efficient with our time. So for this deal, it's not a deal, but again, the whole point of doing this is so that you guys can all get practice. We can all learn to underwrite deals better. We learn to analyze better. And I hope you sincerely just take what I did today, using the same deal, using the same spreadsheet, going over this underwriting video, and explain one part better, smoother, use a different analogy than I did, explain the process differently, go into different sequencing. Whatever that is, the goal here is to set you up so that you don't have fear, you don't have anxiety. Sometimes we just have fear because we don't even know where to start. Well, in this case, I'm simply stating that all you have to do is copy my homework. When you copy my homework, you can put it on your own YouTube channel using the same spreadsheet. Just DM me your email on Instagram at investwithkenthe if you want a copy of the spreadsheet. I've been very fortunate. I've been given that spreadsheet by a few other folks. I just tweaked it to meet what I wanted it to do for my own underwriting process. So reach out if you guys have any questions. Today is day 212. Do this with me, everybody. Do this with me. It's a lonely road if we don't have a community, if we don't do it together. So analyze the deals with me. We're all going to be, is your spreadsheet, George? Yes, it is available. Just DM me your email and my assistant Pia will send it over to you. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 213. Let's do this, everybody. Have a good one. Talk to you tomorrow.